Humiliation. Wait, humility.
Humility.
I was even on my way to work this morning thinking, okay, I have so many stories to tell about humiliation.
Yeah.
But now it's nothing. Now it's irrelevant to everything. Yeah. Okay, humility. So building brick of the week is humility.
The building brick of the week. The building brick of the week is humility.
Yeah.
So, what is humility? What?
Humility is the quality of being humble.
Yes.
That's what it says. Which I didn't know until today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think other people know that? Do you think everybody?
Well, yeah, I think when you start to get into like people who are very famous and people who are heroes and things like that,
yeah,
it's all in how they actually present themselves. If they are humble,
yeah,
right, and they show humility, it's something that people can recognize right away, right? And oftentimes they may not know the word, right? They'll dance around it and go, oh, he was like so down to earth, and oh, you wouldn't think that he was actually famous,
yeah,
or something like that, right? That's actually like what they're trying to describe as humility, right?
So like if I see somebody, say I see somebody famous,
yeah,
and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love them, that's humility?
Yeah.
Isn't that all,
that's not humility, that's awe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would humility be for that?
Well, if you were just to go up to that person and go, oh my God, I love you,
yeah,
like that,
yeah,
then, and he just goes, oh, thank you so much, but, and he just kind of, he accepts it, but he's very gracious about it, and he's not being like, yeah, of course you love me because I'm so awesome, sort of thing. Then he's being humble about like your excitement about who he is and so forth.
Okay.
Who is it you're thinking about as we're talking about this, by the way? Because it seems like you had a very
specific
idea.
Batman.
Okay.
I have no clue. Like, I really had no idea who I was thinking of.
Yeah, I can't imagine Batman being humble, honestly, like when I think about Batman.
Who do you think is the most humble actor that you can think of, or actress?
It's really hard to tell because
you've never met them.
Yeah, you don't know what they're really like. I mean, even when they're acting, they're like, even when they're offset, they still got their persona they have to maintain. So they're really still acting, for the public, so you're not actually getting to know who they are, right?
Yeah, so true.
So I don't know. Offhand, I think about who's that guy out of British Columbia? Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with. Yeah. I have to agree with that too. They've done a few good things for.
He does a lot of things for
charities,
and he's gone to like he's like I think for Make-A-Wish he saw his kid in the hospital and things like that.
Yes, I remember that too.
He strikes me as very down to earth kind of person, and if you were to talk to him about his career and everything, he would be very humble about it.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be like bragging about it.
I feel that like, for instance, because we're talking about a male actor. But it kind of just makes them like that much better. Like it makes you like them that much more.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this is because it's because humility is something that's very attractive.
Yeah.
Right.
My mom loves him. Like loves him, and that's probably why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Versus, who would you say is the opposite of humility as far as like actors and actresses we know?
I'm not very good with actors and actresses, but I don't know. Can't think of anything.
Christian Bale.
Who's Christian Bale?
He's the guy who plays Batman. So Christian Bale.
Oh my God! I'm like Batman, but now I don't even know who that is.
So in his early years, he became famous, I think, for American Psycho.
Okay.
Okay, he was the main actor in that. But after that, he became Batman, and he was also John Connor in Terminator.
Isn't like somebody named Wayne, like the original Batman?
Wayne.
Is that not?
Well, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that guy.
He's Batman too, isn't he?
Yeah, he kind of is in the actual comics, though, not the actual actor.
Okay. Is he humble?
No, he's not. He's a billionaire. And he's actually a very flamboyant, womanizing kind of character in the comics.
Okay. Yes. I've never read them.
So he's definitely not humble.
Okay.
Yeah. He plays this whole like,
I'm the king of
everything, fancy cars and everything else, right?
Yeah.
So he's definitely not humble as far as the comics go. We're talking
What's
about
his name? Bruce Wayne?
Bruce Wayne.
I was so close with the Wayne part.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So the first, I'm telling you, the first Batman. So you said Wayne. No, that guy's name was Keaton. Michael Keaton. Yeah, he was like
Brandon knows it all.
yeah, the first.
I don't know.
Michael Keaton was like the first Batman of all the Batman movies, and that
Okay.
was back in the '90s. So
The 90s.
long time ago.
That wasn't that long ago.
So yeah, I mean, so we're talking about Christian Bale.
Yes.
We don't think that he's humble. You know, he'd be like, I'm the best kind of thing, right? I don't know if he's really like that or not, honestly. I don't know much about him as far as like a person goes. But
I feel like to see true humility, you really need to interact with the person one-on-one.
yeah,
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
like you can't just like, because like you said, like they could even be acting humility. Like they could just be acting humble, even though they're not truly humble. It still could just be all an act.
yeah. Well, that is humility, though. Like if you're acting
But what-
humble, then you're expressing humility in that. Now,
Maybe they'll act it enough that they'll just become it.
yeah, you don't know if like, you know, they turn around. Yeah, it could. Like if they act it, they
Like
become
they're
it. Yeah,
practicing it.
because
Working that muscle.
motion creates emotion,
Yeah.
right? So if they are actually like acting out humility, then they actually might feel humble, and
Yeah.
then and that's what it makes it real. Now you're probably thinking along the lines of something like they're like, oh yes, thank you, and then they shut the doors and go, oh, those peasants, you know, kind of thing, right?
Exactly,
That's exactly what you're
exactly,
thinking,
yeah,
right? Yeah. So I don't think that's really the case. I think that's portrayed in a lot of movies as like people being two-faced like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to being really successful, you have to have these building bricks.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, then everything you do just doesn't get there. It ends up just falling apart really fast, and sometimes before you can even get to greater levels of success. So I tend to not. I understand that when it comes to like the things we've seen in movies and characters and things like that, there's always these like people who look wonderful, you know, in front of everybody, and then they turn around and behind closed doors, they're actually these evil, terrible people.
You see it a lot.
All the time, yeah,
All the
because
time.
it's a story. It's a very common storyline.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I just don't think in reality that's really the case. Yeah.
So if like a humble person, say they accomplish their dream in creating something, do you think they will have more pride or less pride in what they do? Like
If
what
they-
they've done?
If they've accomplished their dreams,
Yeah.
I think when you accomplish your dreams, you have an attitude of gratitude,
Right.
first and foremost.
Yeah.
And then of course, there is a certain sense of pride in saying that like I accomplished this, which is okay. But when you start to brag about it,
Right.
It's just like, you know, here's what I did. What did you do? Right? That's different.
So if
You're
humble,
not
you
being
just-
humble then.
Right. If you're humble, you just know that you've done a good job, and you don't need to.
Yeah, you don't have to go around bragging it to everybody, right?
Right.
So like, if somebody's going around just like, hey, this is what I did, right?
Yeah.
And then like even every time they go and shake hands with somebody, say, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And by the way, I did this, and this. Have you met people like that? I've met people like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Right? That's not humble,
Right.
right? And the truth is that it's very, meeting people like that, it's very off-putting, you know, because you know right away it's like, oh, geez, these guys think they're all that, right? It's like, oh, so you're the king of everything, aren't you? It's kind of how I feel, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but the truth is that if somebody like shakes my hand, it's just like, oh, nice to meet you. And it's just like, you know, my name's Greg.
Yeah.
And then they don't tell me their last name is such and such. It's like, wait, of like the such and such, you know, like, and they don't go on about like, yeah, I just happen to be the heir to like the biggest fortune of XYZ,
Yeah.
right? If they don't talk about that, that's humility, right?
Okay,
Right?
okay.
And so I was like, and like personally, like when I go places and I start to talk to people and I know that, you know, some people might recognize me from doing something that they'd be like, oh, wow, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I specifically won't say anything, right? I don't let anybody know who I am,
Right.
you know, because to me, it's just, again, I guess that's my way of being humble. It's just like, I know, like, you know, okay, I've done some certain things, but there's going to be somebody who's done more than me, and there's no reason
yeah.
why I should brag about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, just let it slide sort of thing. But then eventually what ends up happening is somebody else in the crowd ends up saying all those things. And then now I'm in a position where I'm just kind of like, Like, yeah,
You're
yeah, that's true.
humiliated.
I'm almost, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm almost humiliated, yeah. So I'm just,
So maybe that's where humiliated comes from.
maybe. Well, at that point, I'm kind of like, I'm expressing my own humble, like at that point, I'm like, yes, you know, I did that. And then I'm kind of like, I'm playing it down,
Yeah.
right? I like to play it down.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe sometimes I should maybe like toot a little bit more and just be like, yeah, that's right, you know, and play it up a little, but I don't know, it's just not, I just don't find it my style. And for some people, that's what they do. And yeah.
Now that you're kind of like talking about this, it's actually got me thinking about just like little things that I've done. I guess I'm thinking about work. So, and then like I'll come to you and I'll be like, oh, look at this, I did this. But like now I'm like, am I not humble because I've done that? But I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm just proud of myself for it. And I don't think it's wrong to be proud of yourself and shout it to the world sometimes, right?
Right.
So where's the line for that?
So you're proud about what was done,
Yeah.
right? Are you going around saying I'm so awesome?
No.
Okay, so it's a little
Okay,
different,
okay,
right?
yeah.
So it's one thing to be braggadocious.
Yeah. Braggadocious. Is that a word?
It is a word.
I love it.
Yeah, but then it's another to actually be humble and just be excited
Yeah.
about what was done.
Okay.
Right. So let's take like we do a lot of like with other work we do at the Bunker, we do development with software, right?
Yep.
And there's some people that like. There was one time where there was like a problem and it took like a week to solve.
Yeah.
Right. And when it was finally done, did anyone jump up and down and go, I did it all, I did it, I was the greatest, blah, blah, blah.
No.
Nobody did that, right?
No.
It's just like everyone was like,
Great work,
yay,
team.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did it together, we finally figured it out. Let's make sure it never happens again, right?
Yeah.
So then they were just like, there was a sense of like awe and humility amongst everybody, just
Yeah.
like but also a sense of pride and gratitude.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the way when we increase our humility in terms of like being a building brick, then we attract more things that actually to be thankful for and to be great and have gratitude for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come across as braggadocious and really full of pride and arrogance in the things you do,
Yeah.
then that just pushes away your
People.
opportunities and people.
Yeah. I don't want to be. I would just find that annoying. And I honestly think it would make me feel crappier as a person because I'd be like, well, I haven't done this and I haven't done that. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It would almost make you feel down. So why would you want people like that in your life?
And that's what happens is that when they're talking to you and they're doing those and they're saying those kinds of things, they're wanting to, it's almost like the bully kind of syndrome. It's like they want to put themselves above you.
Yeah.
Right. And so then the more that they say these things, the more they're like, well, I'm this, 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 and this. And you're down here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like I'm going to keep getting lower and lower.
Yeah. And so it's almost like a psychological kind of bullying.
It is.
You know, and it's
Yeah.
all just a matter of them just like putting themselves over you. And when people do that, I mean, as social creatures, we either going to be like, I mean, we aren't going to be attracted to that, so we're probably going to want to move away from that.
Yeah.
But you know, but then for them, they're just kind of like they're doing that because they're wanting you to turn around and worship them, sort of thing, right?
Some examples of humility would be.
Saying good job to your opponent, whether you've won or lost.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say so.
I would get into more detail.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before.
We've talked about saying good job to somebody
Yeah.
is a form of manipulation. Like we in a small sense, we feel that whenever we say good job to someone, because I would say like, yeah, good job. It's the worst thing you can say
Yeah.
because then people are just like, okay, for what?
Right.
Right. And then they're just like, well, that wasn't really sincere.
Yeah.
Which means they're just trying to manipulate me. What an ass. I don't care what I don't care if they say good job. What do you mean good job?
Yeah.
Right. So then maybe that they don't say that they don't say that back, but that's kind of what goes through people's heads as responses, right? So instead of saying good job, what would be more effective would be like, hey, sorry. So if we're talking about opponents, be like, hey, that layup you just did was awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so he's like acknowledging the layup, which was awesome. And yeah, I thought it was awesome too. So thanks, right?
Yeah.
It was actually like really appreciated. And then it's actually like for you to actually give that to somebody who's your opponent,
Yeah.
that's very humble.
That is
right?
very humble.
That is like, that's showing, that's like acknowledging, it's like, yeah, you did really good.
Another example of humiliation, you said you got an email.
Yeah, so, well, someone messaged me on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
And they were just like, hi, Jonathan, congratulations on your professional success and impressive profile. That's basically the same as saying, good job, right? And it's just like, I read that and I'm like, first off, like, okay, you looked at my profile and you're congratulating me on my success, like, for what exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's all the same thing. It's like, this sounds like you're just manipulating and trying to compliment me and get me buttered up.
So the sound of this, like you had said, like good job was like a small form of manipulation.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, like when you first said it, I was like, I don't know, I guess it could be, but honestly, that I think is like definitely a form of manipulation, because they're like, if you were somebody, you're like, oh my gosh, like, thank you. Like that's probably what some people are thinking when they get this email. They're like, oh my gosh, yeah. But you or other people, they could be like, oh yeah, but what's so great about it? Why is this? What is that? But for somebody who's easily manipulated, they would probably be like, oh my gosh, this person emailed me or sent me a message, like, and they'd be in awe that they just got this message, but why? Because they've been manipulated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
I can see it now, is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah. And for some people who's easily manipulated, but for a lot of people, I mean, if we've heard these kind of things throughout our lives, you know, where they say good job in so many ways.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of passes right through you, because what's it for,
Yeah.
And it's the idea of when you compliment people like that, it's not a compliment.
Give some detail.
Yeah, you got to
Like,
give the
why are
detail
they?
on what it's about, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can
Specifically.
be specific, yeah.
So another example would be apologizing after making a mistake. How does that show humility?
So basically, it's just acknowledging that
Owning up to something.
owning up to the mistake is certainly a form of humility.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like nobody's perfect, and if you can own that, then that is expressing humility, and that,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't do right, that's fine, like I own it,
Yeah.
right? So doing that is so valuable, because let me tell you, when people it drives me crazy when people don't own things.
Yes,
Right?
me
When you
too.
know that they did something wrong, when you know that they're not being truthful about it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just making excuses, that is the opposite of humility, right? It's not owning it.
Yeah.
So it just drives me crazy when that kind of stuff happens. It's just like just admit it, and it's like nothing bad's gonna happen to you.
Maybe
right?
you're going to learn from it.
You're gonna learn from it, yeah. So it's like you'll learn from it, and then you turn around, and then it's like, and you're supposed to, and then you can actually improve on it.
Yes.
Right?
I actually have a story about this. So I've mentioned before, I worked at McDonald's for 8 or 9 years before. And I remember I was a manager at the time, and there was probably 8 or 9 managers, and we had a meeting, and they brought us all in, and because things were happening, and people were always putting the blame on other people. It wasn't me, it was this person, or I didn't do it, they did this. And it was always just like not owning up to your mistakes. And the owner and the boss came in, and they were like, no more. I don't want to hear who did what, who did it. You guys are a team. You work together. You say, thank you. I will do better next time. Like, you just completely stop passing the blame on to somebody else, or just take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
And I honestly, like, that was probably when I was probably 15 years ago or so. And I still remember that to this day. Like, take ownership for what you've done wrong, because in the end, it's going to come out better. You're going to learn from it. You're going to be able to practice it more. You're going to be able to just do better.
Yeah.
And, like, learn from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you think somebody who's like really, really good at a profession or a talent and teaches somebody else who isn't so good at that profession or talent, do you think that's showing humility if they're teaching them and kind of being like a
mentor?
mentor? Yes.
Yeah,
that's the word.
mentorship is something that's very important,
Yeah.
and it is a sense of, I guess it depends on the approach.
Yeah, I think
Because,
it would too.
yeah, so if they're coming across like, if you do exactly like I do, then, you're the best.
Yeah.
If they say something like that, right?
Let's hope they don't.
So, but then if they're just like, if they are actually mentoring in the sense of, whoever they're mentoring, they're all about like, I really want to help you, sort of thing, then that's showing a sense of like giving back and humility. So, yeah.
And what about competing with yourself more so than others? So say I had a coworker in the same position with me, and I was always like, I need to do better than them. I need to do better than them. I think that thought needs to stop, and you need to think about what you're doing and do better than what you've done today. Do you think that's a form of humility?
What?
What?
You need to do better than what you did yesterday.
So
today.
instead of competing with like somebody else,
Right.
you compete with yourself.
Okay.
So instead of comparing yourself to another person,
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say now?
I think I understand what you're trying to say.
Maybe you can reword it to make sense.
So you're saying that instead of comparing ourselves to others,
Yeah.
we should only be concerned with how we are performing in terms of our own expectations.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if I have an expectation of myself to be, not to swear so much
Yeah.
or something like that, which is a problem for a lot of people, right? So then, and then I'm constantly looking for, how I'm doing on that. Then that is a form of humility in terms of like making it more about my own self-growth and not necessarily comparing myself to somebody else. So if I'm concerned about my own swearing, I'm not going, oh, well, at least I'm not swearing as much as that guy.
Because that's an excuse.
That's an excuse.
That's what we were
yes.
just talking about. too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. So I think I may have mentioned to you earlier, but I'm not sure if it was part of the show. But I thought humility was the same as humiliation,
Right.
but it's not.
It's not. It's complete opposite.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. That's it for this podcast. Stay tuned for how to.
How are you going to be humble?
What are some ways to be more humble?
How are you going to do it? We'll show you how.
We'll find out.
Thank you for listening to Enter the Bunker. Make sure to follow us on Instagram where you can share your story and also look at behind the scenes of how we make our podcast. You can watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube by simply searching Enter the Bunker. Tune in next time as we launch into thriving.